Welcome back to Follow the Compass North. Today we're talking about a hefty subject, survival mindset. Because there could be multiple different mindsets that we'll be talking about here today. Now, I'm not a psychologist. That is not my forte. My forte is wilderness survival and homesteading. However, mindsets and psychology do come into play, as we've mentioned in our previous videos. As you can see here on our survival slide, part of health is the psychology of your health. Not just your physical aspects, but what are you doing to foster a survival mindset? What are you doing to take care of your psychological health? Now, we could talk about this one for literally days. We could have entire courses dedicated to the psychology of survival, the psychology of the will to survive, of fostering resilience and persistence and determination versus motivation. However, I'm going to try to knock it out here with 4 bullets. I'll be covering the will to survive, my positive mental attitude versus my negative mental attitude, if I had one, the fear loop, which will break down into false evidence appearing real, that's the Tony Blauer system from Spear University, competence and confidence, how to prioritize our needs, and I'll spend a little bit of time on group dynamics in case you're in a multiple person scenario. As you probably already know, the will to survive is often cited as the number one most important part of survival. Without the will to survive, without hope to survive, all other needs, all other prioritization falls apart. You have to be dedicated, motivated, ready to go, the person who never fails, the person who is elite at everything they do. Well, I'm here to disagree with a little bit of that. Now, it helps to have a positive mental attitude. It helps to be motivated and driven to come home and survive. Oh, I can't tell you how much it helps. There are people who have survived extreme hypothermia because they were motivated to focus on their needs. They were motivated to stay afloat, to not drown, to make their way back to the surface and slowly crawl their way out. They're dedicated and driven. Now, I don't know what you're dedicated to. I don't know many of you. But what I would like to say is whatever drives you on a day-to-day basis should also be what drives you to get home, what drives you to survive. You're not going to develop a new persona. You're not going to come up with new motivations and new things in your life that are going to create this new you in a survival situation. You're still you. So whatever gets you going every single day, whether that's seeing your family or mowing your lawn or playing video games, as long as it gets you motivated to get going, focus on that in order to continue surviving. Focus on seeing those things again. Focus on taking the necessary steps to return to the life that you're used to. And that's because I'm a positive mental attitude guy. I'm the kind of person who's typically pretty motivated. As days get worse, I tend to actually get happier. The worst day that I could have is one of the most interesting days, one of the best stories that I could tell someday. So I'm excited to experience those experiences. Now, I'm not expecting everybody to have that. That's pretty unique and probably some sort of personality disorder, but we'll let my psychologist take care of that. However, there is an individual I used to work with who had a negative mental attitude all the time. And you'd think, generically, this person would not be able to garner motivation, would not be able to gain momentum and bolster the will to survive. But I noticed just the opposite. This individual, when they got into a negative mood, they would start feeling frustrated by the things that made it rough for them. I was sitting out with him in a 3-day experience at one point, and he said, "I'm sick and tired of living in these little shelters. I want a cabin." I was like, whoa, not a great way to prioritize. Maybe not the number one thing we should be focusing on right now. But I wasn't going to get in his way. He's a generally angry guy. And he started dragging logs in. He started grabbing branches and putting together a roof, and I helped him out quite a bit. We ended up getting that cabin put together, and it was more of a shack, but it was one of the best shelters that I ever slept in. And it was due to his strength and is able to take that negative mental attitude and push it into what we call motivation. Now, everyone's trying to find motivation. Everyone's trying to get motivated to work out, get motivated to do more, to practice piano, to practice their skill sets, get out in the garage and work on vehicles, whatever you're trying to do in your life. People are trying to foster that motivation to do so, and that's a good thing. If you can build motivation, if you can sow those seeds and reap those rewards, absolutely, motivation's a great thing. But what motivation is it requires you to be in the right mindset in order to take action. Now, when it comes down to a survival situation, you're not always going to be on this peak of mindset. You might be in a low point. You might be upset or angry or depressed or devastated or injured or have some issue where you're not super motivated to be there in that moment. And in those cases where we lack in motivation, we have to rely on determination and discipline. This is where you take action regardless of how you feel. And you can feel good about it later or not. You're just going to do it. So when you wake up on day 3 of getting back in shape and you're no longer motivated because you're sore and tired and feeling a little sick and your calories are low, or if you're in a survival situation and you're injured and it's day 3 and you're sore and you're tired and you're sick and your calories are low, you need to pull it together, use your determination and discipline to journey forth and keep doing what you need to do to survive. So if I can foster and build discipline, I find that more valuable than motivation. Motivation's fun, but discipline is going to hold you up when you fail yourself. All right, enough on will to survive, positive mental attitude, negative mental attitude. We could talk about that one all day, but I'm going to power right through here so I don't end up with like a 30 or 40 minute video. Our second bullet here is fear loop. You'll notice I made it an acronym. This is Tony Blauer's system. He's an expert in hand-to-hand fighting. He's one of my mentors and one of the guys I look up to. If you're interested in working on hand-to-hand combatives or survival in a person-to-person situation, I would look up Tony Blauer or his Spear University. Those are both excellent sources for that kind of subject. And we could spend a whole nother video on combatives. That would be a fun one. I think we might do that in the future. Maybe one of the ones where you actually get to see my face and show you some of the moves. But for today, I'm going to apply his fear loop and his psychology here from combatives to survival. And what he has here is he's made fear into false evidence appearing real. And what I thought the first time I heard this, I thought, he just forced an acronym out of the word fear. But then I thought about it, and I thought, what is fear? Is fear a reaction? No. It's you thinking about what's going to happen. It's you thinking about the consequences of something that has not yet happened. So it's false evidence appearing real in that time that may or may not end up becoming the reality of the situation. And because of this, and fear is a real thing, I'm not saying we can just get rid of fear, right? Courage is not the lack of fear, but the ability to act despite it. And I believe in courage. I don't believe in getting rid of fear entirely. I think that's part of our life. The adrenaline response, the fight, flight, and freeze response, those are inherent to being human. And that's okay. And in the past, you probably heard fight or flight. We've thrown freeze in there as well. I shouldn't just say thrown. We've added freeze because in certain situations, people tend to get stuck in the fear loop, the anticipation of response without the response happening, and cause themselves to lock up and to freeze. Some of you may have experienced that in traumatic moments in your life. I tend to be a fighter when it comes to adrenal responses. I've been in multiple car accidents. I've been in many emergency situations, and I'm the kind of person that gets down to business. But we've seen people who have frozen in those situations, and we've seen people who just wanted to get away from it. And I understand that. You can't really control which one of these you are. As you get better, and we'll talk about this in bullet 3, you get better at managing this. But be aware that that is something that's going to happen. Your expectations in a survival situation are going to be dislocated. You're absolutely going to be out of your element. That's the whole point. That's you building resiliency, you getting better, and understanding that you could find yourself in a fear loop. But realize it's the anticipation of a negative action and not the actual negative action. And hopefully that is one little tool you can use to break that fear loop and take action. Now, bullet 3, applies to survival, but it also applies, I find, in instruction. It applies in life. That if I'm uncomfortable with something, if I'm trying to educate somebody, if I'm for example, when I was a young instructor, I was very much not confident in the material, which meant I was not confident when I was giving it to the individuals. When I was instructing, when I was teaching, if I didn't know what I was talking about, well, for one, I wasn't useful. And for two, I didn't come off as confident. So what I did in order to make myself a better instructor, what I did in order to become more confident in my actions, in my instruction, is I studied. I read every survival manual you could find. I went out and I looked at every possible resource I could find out there. And this was early days of the internet, so there weren't many there digitally. But I read Bradford Angier. I looked at Richard Proenecke, who survived in the Alaskan wilderness for 40, 50 years, I think, on his own. Built his own cabin and no electricity for years and years. He learned how to become a very competent person, which built his confidence. And in turn, I built my competence, which allowed me to be more confident when I was teaching. Now, typically, when I'm speaking about a subject, I try to have 10 times the amount of knowledge than I display. That way I can cover the 10% here that really matters, and I have 90% to rely on for questions. We're trying to build up more questions in the comments section so that if you guys ask something or want to hear more about a certain subject, just bring it up down there, and I'll use my other 90% to elaborate and to educate more. And if it's something that's a cool little tidbit or I think everyone should know, I will throw it into another video. Once you are competent in survival, you know what you need. You know you need health, sustenance, protection. You know you need to maintain 98.6. You know you need to take care of your body and your mind. You know you need to have food and water and sustain yourself. And I'm just repeating myself if you're following along. When you know how to do those things, then you can figure out what's more important. And each situation is going to be super unique. You're not going to know. I can't say your health is always the most important thing, because sometimes the environment dictates that protection is the most important thing. Sometimes your dehydration or your malnutrition become a higher priority than your protection or your health or your psychology or your mindset at that moment. And I don't know what you're going to be in. So you have to prioritize. And the more competent you are, the more confident you'll be in taking those actions that allow you to survive. Finally, the last thing that we have is our group dynamics. This is another one that we could spend hours and hours talking about, and we'll never be experts at this. We can become better managers, better leaders, we can become better survivalists, but each group is going to be unique. Each set of individuals are going to bring dynamics that can be unforeseen. So I'll stick to the generics here. But what I'd like to do in the future is build a leadership seminar, or maybe a hands-on workshop where we bring people in and actually go out and do stressful things and accomplish major goals in a group setting, so we can learn a little bit more about how to handle different personalities and different people in unique and high-stress situations. However, for today, to keep it simple, I'll say that a good leader knows what the capabilities are of their individuals, and they put those people in areas that they excel. If I have an individual that's really good at making shelters, I'm going to be using that person to build up and make the shelters better. If I have an individual who all they can do is go down to the creek and grab water, that's what their job's going to be, because I'm going to use those resources as a leader in a way that they're best utilized. Yes, over long term, we'd like to grow these individuals into other skill sets, but when it comes to survival, it's what you're good at the moment. Embrace your strengths. Understand that you have weaknesses. And in a group setting, find out who doesn't have those weaknesses. Find out who can help you in those ways. And there's going to be an emotional roller coaster that comes along with this. There's going to be days where you're like, wow, this is amazing. And you see here down here in our graph, this is amazing. We're doing this wonderful thing. We're in this country and we're enjoying this wilderness experience and we're having a great time. And then there's going to be other days where you're like, I've had 300 calories in the last 2 days. I am dehydrated, I am low on blood sugar, and I am angry. And that happens too, because we're humans. We can't be the PMA guy all the time, positive mental attitude all the time. That's borderline insanity. However, if we recognize that we're going to have highs and lows, and we counteract those where someone's having a nice day, we lay low and let them have that nice day. They can help us out if we're having a low. And then when they come back around and have their low day, you need to be the person who steps up and is strong for the other individual. I find this works in survival situations, in family dynamics. It's wonderful when you can identify that someone's having a bad time and to step up and be strong for them. I've always found it's been easier to be strong for somebody else than it is for you. So if you find the person who needs you and you lend them a helping hand, that's always helped me stay a little bit more on top. The goal here is not to have a perfect one day on, one day off as this sine wave looks, but to extend these highs and to minimize these lows. And if you have a group setting where you can throw in multiple dynamics, maybe you guys can all work together to have a wonderful experience. Stay on the positive side of the mindset than the negative. So yes, a lot of this is generalized. The will to survive is of course fostered by a positive mental attitude. The fear loop, false evidence appearing real from Tony Blauer, can absolutely be broken by taking action, by understanding it, by fostering competence over confidence, competence leading to confidence, so you can prioritize your needs and manage your groups in a survival setting. It all makes sense when you lay it out, but there's so much more that you can discuss on this and so much more you can extrapolate upon this. So I appreciate you coming by and seeing our introduction to the survival mindsets, because there's a lot more we can talk about this, and I'd like to have you involved in the community. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'll be sure to answer all of the comments. At this point, I think that's very easy to do. If you enjoyed what you saw here today, check out some of my other videos, like and subscribe. Anything that you do to help the channel is absolutely appreciated. So thank you for your time, and have a good night.